Hey everyone, welcome to the Masto Fitness Podcast. In episode 2, we're going to talk about the importance of strength, endurance, and flexibility and mobility. So, this is a quick hit podcast, but we're going to keep it short and to the point, focusing on the things you can do off the bike to race faster and safer. At Masto Fitness, we work with racers remotely in the real world. Many have full time commitments, full time jobs, family, a lot going on, and we want to make the best of their time training off the bike so they can race faster and safer. So that's what we do. We provide the training off the bike. So the days on the bike are that much better, stronger, and you're able to get more out of your rides and races. And with that, today, like I said, we're talking about strength, endurance, and flexibility and mobility. And those three things, I'm gonna put flexibility and mobility together. So strength, endurance, and then flexibility slash mobility are much like our dirt bike. So we've got the engine, the suspension, and the frame. Our engine, we can have the sweetest, most high performance motor, but if we don't have suspension that can keep up with it, well, we're never going to get the most out of that motor and be able to push it to its fullest. And then also, we've got our suspension, and we know if you've got dialed suspension, but you don't have that chassis just right, you don't have everything set up with your bars and your foot pegs, the correct stance for you, the correct width bars, the bend of bars, well, that suspension isn't going to be able to work to its fullest, and we're not going to be able to really work things the way we want. So it's just like that with strength, endurance, and flexibility, mobility. We need all three to have the complete system, just like our bike. We need a dialed motor, we need dialed suspension, and we need that chassis, that frame dialed as well, with us fitting well on the bike. So first, the role of strength. It's really important that we have a strong body. Maybe some of you have read this or seen this before, but the G forces applied racing um, in certain situations can be almost 10 times our body weight. So we need a strong body that's able to move and adjust with the bike, control the bike. We know we want to work with the bike, but especially if you're doing things like hard enduro, it's a little bit more of pushing the bike around, pulling the bike around. And when we're on rough terrain, when we're really working the ruts or some really rough terrain, we need to be able to move that bike around. And so we need to be strong. Now, I don't want to confuse strong with big muscles. Maybe some of you have seen this before or seen, just looking at a professional racer. They don't have giant bodies, they don't have big muscles. They are, for the most part, when you look at them, they look athletic, they look somewhat lean. They don't have giant biceps, they don't have giant quads, they don't have huge pecs. And that's because we need a body built for endurance. We need muscles that are low fatiguing and able to be able to do those repetitive motions time and time again. When you're up off the seat, when you're centered on the bike, when you're working your upper body back and forth, we really need a body that can do those motions again and again and again. And that's why we're really focused on the endurance built muscles, not really big, bulky muscles. So, with that, when you're training, we're all about sport specific movements and building muscles that are less likely to fatigue. We want muscles that are able to last from minutes to hours, depending on what type of racing you're doing. That's really important for us. So when we have sessions for our athletes in the gym, we're looking for them to have sessions and movements that are multi-joint. We want to essentially be as efficient as we can. Single joint movements are good, but if we can do something in multi-joint, well, that's even better. We're able to work multiple muscle systems at once. A great example would be a bicep curl. That's a single joint movement. We're just working one muscle, just our bicep muscle, by doing that arm curl. Now, if we were to do an arm curl to an overhead press, well, now that's working multiple systems. We're going to do our bicep curl, so that's going to contract our bicep, and then we're going to go up into an overhead press. That's going to work our chest, our deltoids, our lats, and really work multiple systems at once. So being more efficient. And then if we go down to the lower body, right, we could do something like a leg extension, work just our quadricep, or we could do a squat. Squat's going to incorporate multiple joints and multiple muscles. So not only is it going to work both sides of our legs, so our quads and our hamstrings, our calves, it's also going to work our core, which our core is super important for racing. We want to connect the upper and lower part of our body. when we're racing, and the core does that. So incorporating the core in any movement is always a bonus, because as racers, we need to be able to connect those handlebars to those foot pegs, and the core is how we get it done. So strength, super important. I do feel like sometimes when I'm scrolling through social media or looking at things, there'll be a lot of just strength stuff because it's kind of easy to show. But it's important to know that we need strength, endurance, and that flexibility, mobility. So next, we've got endurance. Now, endurance is one that can be done multiple ways. We can go ahead and do endurance through like cycling, rowing, running, swimming. There's multiple ways to do it at Masto Fitness. The most common one we have is going to be cycling. Cycling is our most popular, but we have people that row, run, swim, do it all. Some of them do a mix of it. They're almost triathletes in terms of how many sports they participate in and train off the bike. But no matter what type of training you do, the specifics are important. If you're cycling on the days you're not on your dirt bike and going out for a bike ride, yes, that is going to help improve fitness, but it's not going to help improve fitness at the fastest rate or as quickly as we could. Just going out and going for a ride, kind of on your bicycle, doing like a medium to hard ride, which I feel like is kind of a trap some racers will get themselves in. They work sort of hard, but not too hard, but they don't go easy. They want it to feel like they did something. Well, that's called gray zoning. And essentially what happens there is, you go out and do that session, feels like you did something, but we're always working out at the same kind of intensity level, maybe about 80 to 90% of max heart rate. And while it might feel like we accomplish something every day, we keep doing sessions like that, we're going to plateau. We're not going to improve our cardiovascular fitness and stamina. What we want to do is a range of intensity levels or heart rate zones. So nice, easy stuff like zone 1, like you can almost speak a full sentence, up to longer durations where you're kind of going for like hour or hours, and you can speak a couple words at a time. That would be like zone 2 heart rate. And then zone 3 is like tempo, something you can sustain for a prolonged period of time, but definitely not forever. You can speak just a few words. And then those really high efforts, those kind of threshold all out efforts where you're gasping for air, you can't really speak a word at all, and those efforts only last seconds. This is the kind of training that you really want to do to help improve your cardiovascular fitness. Doing the specific training, and like I said, it can be off of kind of feel or verbal cues, but it can also just be off of heart rate zones, which are just really specific and tailored to you. Something you do through testing to get your heart rate zone specifically, but it can be done with heart rate zones. It can be done with power if you're using a power meter on a bicycle or a rowing machine, or it can be done using kind of feel and that's those speak cues that I went over. So either way, just going out and training, just going for rides aren't quite going to cut it. You can get a lot more out of your training by getting specific with it. And that's going to ultimately give you the best bang for your buck for fitness. Structured training on your bike, going out and doing certain motos, durations of training, giving yourself a certain amount of rest. Well, those same things apply to cardiovascular training. So making sure that you're nice and specific about it will help make all the difference. And then finally, flexibility and mobility. This is one that I feel like is probably the easiest neglected by all of us racers. Something I used to be quite guilty of a couple of years ago, because it's not that exciting. Lifting weights, we're going through range of motions. We kind of feel ourselves getting a lot of work done. Going, especially like biking or running, you get to go somewhere, you get to see something. It's kind of exciting every time, at least for me. It is. It never really gets old going out on my bike or going for a run. But then we've got flexibility, mobility. A little less exciting, kind of taking our body through a range of motions, making sure we can work muscles, tendons, and ligaments the way that they're supposed to, making sure our arms can go as far back as they're supposed to, our arms can go overhead. We have proper hip flexibility, for example, all these things. A little less exciting, but really crucial for racers because first, just like the chassis on the bike ties the engine and suspension together, flexibility and mobility ties our strength and endurance together because all three need to happen for us to really be healthy. And for racers, I feel the biggest advantage is we all crash from time to time. It comes up, whether we like it to or not. And we've all seen plenty of videos and photos of some pretty gnarly crashes and the way the body is twisted and contorted. Now, having proper flexibility and mobility is going to decrease your chance of an injury. Obviously, it's never going to completely remove it, but it's going to take those chances of you getting injured and decrease them when a tendon, a ligament, a muscle can fully move through the range of motion we need it to. Things are less likely to tear. Maybe they're more likely to stretch and get a little strained than to have something actually require rehab or surgery. So spending some time doing flexibility, mobility every week, definitely well worth the time. And when I look at these three things, strength, flexibility, and then mobility, endurance, I would say if I broke up a week, I would say you'd want to be doing endurance training 3 times a week. If you're short on time, if you don't have a ton of time, I would do the endurance training 3 times a week. I would do strength sessions 2 to 3 times a week, and then I would do mobility 1 to 2 times a week. And the nice thing about mobility is you can supplement it or add it into the end of a strength session. So once the muscles are all warmed up and have been used, you can go ahead and add in that mobility work and then kind of help work the body through the range of motion. So kind of double up on those sessions as well. So you definitely want to be incorporating all every week to help make you a more complete racer. So now with that, next week, we're going to go deeper and just talk about strength, talk about the specifics of strength. I'll talk about specifically why I like to do race specific movements off the bike, because I feel like even the most ambitious rider who's living in the real world with family commitments, 6 million things going on, we're never able to ride as much as we truly want to. So I really like to have those muscles completely conditioned. So when the days that we can get on the bike, we are ready to go and we're not conditioning those muscles riding. We've already kind of done as much as we can off the bike to help mimic those movements on the bike. And with that, if you want to give Masto Fitness a try, if it's something that sounds interesting to you, training off the bike, send me a message on Instagram, Masto Fitness, and I'll set you up with a free week of our single jump training program. So easy as that. See you guys next week.